the counseling. Okay. Hi, folks. We're getting set up for our presentation for your Counseling 101 101 Freshman Connection lesson. All right. Just give us one sec.
There we go.
Great. So as we begin, I am Mr. Coleman, the Counseling Department Chair and one of your Eagle Leaders Advisors. I am joined by...
I am Ms. Stimac. I am also a counselor at Jones and another one of the Eagle Leaders Program Advisors.
And throughout our presentation, you will get to know us primarily through our Bitmojis. Okay, stay tuned. All right, so for today, we want to give you a clear overview of what we do as counseling, who are we in the first place, and also what you can expect from us next. So, looking at our team, we have 6 counselors plus our clerk that works with us, Ms. Gutierrez, and we work together to support all students at Jones. So as a first-year student, as a freshman at Jones, you will have a counselor, one of the 6 of us that works with you freshman year, and that same person will be working with you all 4 years of high school. You're probably questioning, well, how do we decide which freshmen work with which counselor? It's actually done by last name. So you'll be getting some more information later in the summer on specifically who your counselor will be. But for example, if we'll go back to that first slide, Miss Syed is our counselor who tends to work with students whose last name fall at the beginning of the alphabet. Mrs. Belkey works with our students shortly after Miss Syed. Miss Dimac's caseload tends to fall somewhere around the IJKL-ish area. I tend to follow Miss Stimac in terms of the last name alphabet, somewhere around M's and N's, sometimes O's, L's, M's, and O's. And then we have Mrs. Schnetterbeck, who follows me, Miss Goins, who tends to have students whose last names fall at the end of the alphabet, and then there is Miss Gutierrez, who is our clerk. So when you stop by the counseling center, she's generally the first face you'll see, and she'll let you know whether or not your counselor is present, and she'll direct you to your counselor's office. So that's who we are, and as you might guess, next slide, we're ready to offer you super supports. It's also important to note that we're also costume people. So especially around Halloween and homecoming and Spirit Weeks, we tend to go all out in terms of costumes. So we're absolutely happy to support you. So that's who we are.
So now that you've heard who we are, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we do. So there are 3 kind of domains, as we call them, in which counselors support students. So I'm going to talk through each of those domains briefly and what that might look like in your freshman year. So the first domain is academic support. So what that might look like in freshman year is we're going to talk to you folks about how things are going, how your transition to Jones is going, how you're managing your academics. We'll also can talk to you about 4-year plans. What classes are you interested in taking later on in high school, right? If you're having a problem in a class, if you're having an issue with the teacher, we always recommend that you talk to that teacher first. But if you're not sure how to talk to your teacher, if you're not sure what to say, if you're not even really sure what's going on or why you're struggling in that class, we can also talk to you about that. The second domain is social emotional support. What might be what you think of when you think of a guide or a school counselor, at your school. If you didn't know, we don't use the term guidance counselors anymore because we're not giving you folks advice, right? You folks have been running your lives for the last 14, 15 years. So really what we're doing is just talking with you about options and how we can support. Some of that will fall under that social emotional support. So if you are struggling, if you're having a bad day, if something's going on at home, if you feel like you might be feeling really anxious or depressed, we can kind of talk you through that, help you figure out what your options are, and also, if needed, refer you and your family to any outside care providers that you might need. And then the final domain is college and career readiness. So a big part of what we'll do with you folks over your 4 years at Jones is talk to you about what do you want to do once you're finished with Jones, right? That might seem like a long way away, but it'll go quicker than you think. So really, when it comes to freshman year or your first year at Jones, what we're really looking at for you folks is exploring your interests, deciding what extracurriculars, what clubs, what sports you might like to get involved in, and how those might translate to your interests after high school. So that's kind of an overview, a real quick overview of all the ways that we support you at Jones.
So it's important, if you don't already know, that you become aware of the concept of confidentiality. So confidentiality really describes, in our relationship as counselors working with you as students, the inability for your counselor to share information that you provide with anybody else. So if you're disclosing information to us, we can't actually tell anybody without your permission, unless you're talking about bringing significant harm to yourself, bringing significant harm to someone else, or someone bringing significant harm to you. Those are the three sort of exceptions to the rule on confidentiality, because more than anything, we want to make sure that you're safe and supported. And if we have any concerns about your safety, we're going to break confidentiality and reach out to a third party to get some more support. That will likely involve at least one or multiple parents or guardians. It could involve school administration, or potentially reaching out to an outside support provider. But more than anything, we want you to know that we care about your safety, and we will always let you know when and if we are going to break confidentiality to support you in a meaningful way.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about what counseling supports in your freshman year look like. So the first is counseling seminars. So we are really lucky at Jones in that we have the opportunity to actually come in to teach and to talk to you folks in large groups about counseling related topics. So about 3 times a year, we will either come into your classroom, or you folks will come meet us in a space. It might be something like this, where we record a video and then post it on our Google Classroom for you to see, where we'll talk about different things. We'll talk a little bit more about how counselors support you folks at school. We'll talk about academic strategies. We'll talk about anxiety coping strategies. We will talk about courses and grades, right? We'll talk about what your transcript means. We'll talk about what classes you can choose for sophomore year, and further beyond that, we'll talk about graduation requirements. So all of those kind of happen in a larger group meeting. We also will do a one-on-one meeting with every single first-year student. So all of you folks will have an opportunity to meet with your counselor one-on-one, so we can get to know you, so we can learn more about you and learn how we can support you, and you can learn more about us. Those meetings tend to take place between October and November, so stay tuned for that. And then also the counseling department partners with our Eagle Leaders program. So your upperclassman mentor, who hopefully many of you will get to meet in the live Google Meets this week. We also work with the Eagle Leaders. So when we talk to you folks about things like academic support, you might meet with your Eagle Leader later that month to talk about that as well. So we really partner with those folks in order to just kind of provide as much support as we can.
So we appreciate we've covered a lot of ground very quickly for you as relates to counseling at Jones. But more than anything, we want to hear from you. So we actually have our survey, and the link is here. You can't click on it right now because this is a video, but we'll make sure you get the we'll make sure you get the PowerPoint as well, so you can click on it. But we want you to take this brief survey just to let us know, well, what questions do you have right now? You can ask us questions on any topic. It can be about counseling specifically. It can be about life at Jones. It can be about anything. But we're going to look at the questions that you ask us. And then later this week on Thursday, we are going to have you watch another video where you can listen to me and Ms. Stimac answer the questions that are meaningful and important to you. So make sure that you take a look at that survey, and really the sky's the limit. You can ask us anything and we'll work together to make sure we answer your questions. And with that said, we really, really hope that you enjoy Freshman Connection this week. And if you have any questions, make sure that you reach out. Here are our email addresses. You know, me and Ms. Stimac are available together during the week of Freshman Connection this week. And I will be available on Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the summer, even before school starts. So if there are any questions of any kind, feel free to reach out. But if there's anything specific that you want us to talk to on Thursday of this week, make sure you take a look at that survey and give us some questions. All right, with that said, bye. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, folks. Take care.